Hello everyone, I'm Wendell Jones and welcome to this edition of our program, Jones and Company. On this program, we examine the national issues of the Bahamas. We had quite a number of tourism professionals in our country over the last several days, and they were in a regional tourism conference at Atlantis on Paradise Island. And on our various shows on radio as well as television, we were talking about tourism over the last few days, particularly since the Prime Minister made a speech calling for the broadening of the tourism brand here in the Bahamas. He called for us to rejuvenate the brand, to recreate some things here in the country. And so we thought we would bring one of our tourism professionals on our program, Jones and Company, Mr. Robert SandySands, who is a Senior Vice President at Bahamas and has been in the hotel industry for decades. Mr. Sands, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon.
I know you have a very long resume, you know, and so I know you started out very young, and so I left it at decades.
Thank you very much. You're very kind.
Yes, yes. Godfrey, it's good to see you.
Thank you. I met Mr. Sands once in Guyana. He was running the, what's the name?
Guyana Pegasus.
The Guyana Pegasus. Many, like you say, many years ago.
1982.
And you were at Jamaica, the Jamaican Pegasus as well?
I went there in 84.
Okay.
So I spent collectively in the Caribbean close to 7 years managing Trust House Forte properties in the Caribbean.
Mm-hmm. We're going to ask you a few questions about the newest property we have here, Bahamas, and probably ask you one or two questions about Grand Bahama as well. But what is the overall state of our tourism industry to your mind?
I believe that the Bahamas tourism industry is beginning to re-energize. It's beginning to re-energize principally because having been an apopelagic nation, a lot of our tourism products have been damaged via hurricanes since 2015, 16, 17, resulting in a number of our gem properties just beginning to reignite again. We have had the addition, certainly, of the opening of Bahamas, additions to and upgradings of a number of our principal properties. Confidence in our tourism plan is beginning to grow again, evidenced by the growth in both stopover numbers and cruise visitors for the first time in 3 years. Mm-hmm. The fact that air arrivals alone for the first 6 months of this year up by 15%. Total arrivals only up by 4.5% for the first 6 months because of the impact of the cruising industry sectors had on it. But I believe there's still a lot of work to be done. And the principal element for our success is going to be a call for discipline. Discipline of all the peoples of the Bahamas who participate in tourism to understand that tourism is everybody's business. And if we can address a lot of those disciplined issues going forward, I think that we are poised for great things. But let's look at the industry sectorally. Mm-hmm. For the first time in a long time, the southern Bahamas is showing signs of growth again, not only in their boutique hotels, but principally in their marina and boating activity, which is substantive. Mm-hmm. Notwithstanding Grand Bahama's loss of rooms, their arrival numbers have been holding, principally because of cruise and a lot of reduction in stopover visitors to Grand Bahama, but nowhere near the robustness that is necessary to sustain that island. And New Providence has been doing fantastically well, not only with the new rooms from Bahamas, but we have not seen any real erosion of business to the other principal hotels.
Okay. So how is it that we're not feeling this in the economy? You know, tourism is our number one industry, the largest industry. And, but there are people who are still working just a few days in some of the hotels.
Well, I think you will find that for this time of the year. Certainly June to October is a shoulder season for, that's nothing new. If you try and go back 20 years, hotels were closed from, say, the end of August till December. Hotels are now open on a year-round basis. Therefore, there will be times, certainly between September, October, November, where there are some short work weeks. That's nothing new to this sector. The positive thing, though, is that very few hotels are closing, but are reducing their workloads during that particular period. Even in the Family Islands, you don't have the level of complete closures. You have 1 or 2 boutique properties that close 6 to 8 weeks, but the majority of them remain open on a year-round basis.
Mr. Sands, there was an IMF report indicating that the Bahamas had lost considerable ground in the tourism field, and it was the only country in the region that wasn't growing from about 2000 to about 2015. You worked in the Caribbean, and the projections are that the Dominican Republic and Jamaica are now emerging as major competitors for the Bahamas. Is that correct?
Well, I think they've always been major competitors. Let us understand that a lot of our Caribbean neighbors, principally and before, their key industries were either agriculture or industry. They saw the Bahamas model of tourism, copied it, and they're doing very well. As of today, there are approximately 17,000 hotel rooms in all of the Bahamas. There must be close to 75,000 in the Dominican Republic and close to 30,000 in Jamaica. What is the subtle difference between their tourism and ourselves? Well, close to 1/3 of the visitors who go to Jamaica are Jamaicans who have transplanted into other parts of the world, visiting home on holiday. We don't have that similar situation here in the Bahamas. So VFR market to a lot of the Caribbean countries, their numbers are enhanced by a number of their nationals who in large numbers live overseas, visit on a regular basis. The Dominican Republic, similarly, you have the same sort of arrangement. And also it's a cruise embarkation location as well. So they benefit both from those persons coming in to catch a cruise and also the multiplicity of the all-inclusive hotels that they have. The third very important element is that the cost of operations of the tourism sector in those areas are not as high as it is here in the Bahamas. And thirdly, their infusion of culture, food, things that are local, play an integral role in their tourism sector, something that we have not yet taken advantage of here in the Bahamas.
Mm-hmm. Romeo Farrington telephoned the show that I was doing and said that he's been in the business for 53 years. He had some people who flew in and wanted a restaurant, and after the restaurant experience, after dining, some entertainment. And he said there was nowhere to go. Brings me to the question of product development. Our product is not as rich as people make it out to be. Isn't that right?
Well, I think we could be better, but I am not going to suggest for 1 minute that we do not have a rich product. I think that there are elements of our product that are now evolving. For example, never before in the history of tourism has the element of art played a significant role in all the hotels. And artisans are benefiting from this particular issue. Things, Bahamian, very small though, are also playing a particular part in the tourism sector. Music is one of those areas that have been lagging behind for a long period of time. And I just think it's the psyche of the traveler today in terms of what they want and where can they find these unique clubs that existed 25 years ago. The other thing is that the average visitor stays 3 to 4 days. When these nightclubs were in their heyday, guests were staying 1 week, 2 weeks. The other very important element is that cruise ships overnighted. Cruise ships no longer overnight in the Bahamas.
Isn't it because there's no experience? They don't have you don't have the amenities.
Well, I think that that is the answer in some respect, but I think it is also the business plan of the cruise ships because they want to take advantage principally of all of their passengers on board so that they can benefit greatly from their expenditures. And yes, we could do a much better job of the onshore experiences. But I think the cruise ships understood it a long time ago that if they are to grow their revenue, it's going to have to be in terms of the added costs on board, whether it's the casino, whether it's the nightclubs, whether it's the shopping, duty-free shopping, et cetera, and unfortunately, resort destinations like the Caribbean are the victims of that business decision.
Mr. Sands, take off your hotelier hat and look at the cruise ship business. We claim that cruise ship passengers, I don't have the exact figure in my head.
$70.
$70 a head, right? But when you go throughout the Caribbean, the cruise ship passenger is the one who has made Caribbean tourism. Because all these countries have, and I'm sure you're aware, outstanding cruise ports. Everywhere you go, you get an outstanding cruise port. We don't have one. The festival market has been closed for years. The proposed cruise ship port in East Grand Bahama, nobody hears anything about it. What is your view on us taking greater advantage of the cruise ship passenger?
Well, I'll have to take my hotelier hat off because, you know, I am principally an advocate for heads and beds.
Yeah.
And also the mere fact that a stopover visitor is paying $1,400 versus the $70. Although I appreciate that that $70 directly impacts the local economy, whether it's taxi drivers, straw vendors, whatever, tours, principally in Nassau, and there's no leakage of any of that $70. But having said that, yes, I believe that there is a great opportunity to enhance the onshore experience of cruise passengers. And the real benefit of that is that they may come back as stopover visitors. And the fact that we have close to 4.5 million of them, maybe 5 million of them a year, I think speaks volumes as to what we can and should be doing. But then again, that comes to my discipline issue. When those cruise ships are in and how we, not as with the greatest amount of courtesy, try to attract that business and manage it and show them around, we do ourselves a disservice. The areas in which they traverse could be cleaner, more welcoming.
But you see, that's the point Brenda was making about how the product has declined.
Yeah. Well, the product has not developed holistically.
Yeah.
It's only developed in pockets. You have the, if we use New Providence as there, you have Paradise Island.
Right.
Very nice. You have Cable Beach. Very nice. And everything else in between is left to be desired.
Right.
But it goes back to discipline. I believe discipline in terms of our attitude to cleanliness, discipline in terms of our approach to how the condition of our cars for taxi driving, discipline in terms of how we have public restrooms should be kept in the center of Rawson Square. Discipline in terms of law enforcement, that buildings should be painted on a regular basis, certainly downtown, that there should be organized routes for persons for these particular tours, and also the locations of some of our jams. You spoke about the 66 Steps and the water tower and Fort Shower. That there should be, in my opinion, a concerted effort to ensure that those principal iconic locations are upgraded. Even the old Victoria Gardens.
Yeah. So haven't we allowed things to run down? Haven't we allowed the product to run down? You know, Fort Castle, the water tower, according to the Cruise Ship Association, is one of the best features in the entire Caribbean. We have our water tower in a state of dilapidation. Around the area is seedy. It's unkempt. Certainly, we aren't as concerned about product improvement and product development of our tourism industry as we should be. Godfrey talk about the colonial days all the time. And in the days of colonialism, in the UBP government days, those things were upkept. You went around Rawson Square and you see flowers and all that sort of thing, Mr. Sands. We have an attitude of negligence, it seems, when it comes to our product development.
No, I hear you.
That is harsh.
But no, it is harsh, but I think it's also a product of resources. The difficulty in this nation, which we all speak to, is that we are not a one-island nation. We are archipelagic. We have to replicate a lot of what we do so many times.
Yeah, but you got to take care of the center.
I understand, but we have 33 international airports. 33. Bermuda has one.
Right.
Barbados
Jamaica has two. Barbados has one. This little Bahamas has 33 international airports. A significant amount of them were badly damaged by hurricane. I'm not defending, I'm saying that we are caught up in a situation because that we have multiple islands, that their funding has to come. But there is no excuse that certain areas should not be maintained and well kept. The second thing is, though, is that we need to find the private-public partnerships to make some of these things work, especially from the end users who benefit from it. The tour, that's what works in the hotel sector, because we have private-public partnerships in terms of marketing, in terms of how we're able to keep our general surroundings beautified. We need to find some commonality with the persons who benefit from going to the water tower and Fort Castle, how we can pool some type of levy that can go towards the upkeep of this product improvement.
Mr. Sands, it has to do with an attitude, as you said earlier on, a culture. Bahamas does a wonderful job in how you keep the verges at Cable Beach. The government of the Bahamas can't keep a half a mile on Cable Beach tidy. They took down some trees at Cable Beach And they left the stumps and the branches there for at least 6 weeks.
But Mr. Jones,
Mr. Sands, that is an attitude.
Tongue-in-cheek, because
That's an attitude.
we talk about all of these costs
Yeah.
come out of a very limited kitty. You would agree, correct?
But if you take
But
down
the
a
discipline,
tree,
but the discipline,
move the limbs.
the discipline though, as a people, we're not prepared to contribute to the upkeep of some of these things.
But the point is, I am Mr. Government. I take down a half a dozen trees. I delimb these trees. And I leave the limbs on the major thoroughfare next to Bahama, a multi-billion-dollar property, for weeks. It's an attitude. It's a culture of negligence.
Lack of discipline. And I believe, I prefaced my comments that we can improve this tourism product overnight if the attitude changed, and also our discipline to how we conduct ourselves within this sector can be corrected overnight.
Okay, when we return, I want to ask you one or two questions about the Prime Minister's idea of broadening the tourism brand. We take this break here on our program, and we'll come right back.